Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board Information Session Workshop. Today we are going to rejig the order of the presentation. So we will have New Zealand Police update first. Roy Epley, welcome.
Hello, thank you. I'm going to speed through some things, but I'm happy to answer any questions at any time if that's much more important to you than me rabbiting on about some figures. Key things I'm trying to do a little bit more at the moment is just promote some of the more positive stuff as opposed to the negative stuff that I often talk about. And unfortunately for us, there's a lot more negatives than positives usually. But it's just interesting to note that over the course of the next month, in the wider Christchurch metro area, but some of it very close to here, there are some very good things happening, such as the cruise ships coming in again. There's a national hui happening out at Tuahiwi, Festival of Nations in Phillipstown, Southern Slide Fest event at Port Levy, a Goddard Music Festival at Jack Hinton Drive, Diwali coming up in North Hagley Park, some rugby league, some church dedication services at the new church in Whiteley Ave in Addington, and United Fire Brigades Conference in Oxford Terrace coming up again in November, and it goes on. So why I mention that is because often I'm talking about the more poorer things that happen, such as on Saturday just gone in Torrens Road in Hillmorton, a 45-year-old person was stabbed with a knife by his partner. Units attended and located the male with stab wounds, and initially assessed as not life-threatening. However, the female on that occasion was arrested and held overnight, and the victim still in hospital with serious wounds. Some youths failing to stop on the Southern Motorway again on Saturday just gone at 1:02 hours in the morning. Reports of known female youth offender aged 15 years driving a vehicle and drinking at the same time in breach of her bail conditions. Further checks revealed that she was in the company of another 15-year-old who was also breaching for similar types of breaches of bail conditions. Eventually, the vehicle was spiked and was took some time before the vehicle was able to be stopped, even after that event on the Southern Motorway. When it was eventually stopped, it was abandoned, and 5 youths took off from that vehicle, all aged between 14 and 15 years, and all had to be arrested. So some sad things still happening. Electric scooter crash in Wincombe Street in Christchurch Central. The person still remains in hospital as a result of that. Family harm in Linwood. Another aggravated robbery in Ruskin Street in Addington, targeting prescription medicine at a family home. Assaults on police in Gloucester Street. A drunken family harm episode resulted in police arresting officers by being assaulted, trying to look after the woman at that address, and a near sudden death that may still result in a death as a result of some offenders being dealt with in Aranui after a report of stealing some cars. All of those things just happened in the weekend gone. And I try and balance that out a little bit with some of the good news stories, because otherwise it sounds like Christchurch is in total decline, which it certainly isn't. A bit closer to home here, pleased to say that the beat sections are up and running now. Government initiative to establish beat sections in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. So we've nearly got 3 complete sections here in Christchurch, and you should see some of those folks happening, patrolling in the malls here at Riccarton. They're intending to also extend out of the central city into the suburbs with the larger malls. And we've already had some positive reports from shop owners in the mall, seeing more police than they've seen for quite some time.
They're really good, and they stopped me as well, because I was walking along with some new street signs. I was about to give to a contractor, and I went, "Did you take them somewhere?"
Community patrols remain a really great partner for us, and you'll be aware that some of the chaps around the table here and myself attended just recently the Horswell Community Patrol, and then just been established. So these 2 men in particular have been real great advocates for that patrol, and that's strengthening communities by people who live amongst us, caring about what's happening around them and doing something about that. So they're a fantastic thing for us as well. On a slightly more negative point, we're seeing a lot more protest activity than we ever have in Christchurch. Just as an example, over the last weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then into the new week, also a couple of days, Greenpeace water testing protest, Greenpeace Ringura Republic meeting, PSNA rally, that's the pro-Palestine people's group, Greenpeace, another water testing one again on the Sunday, some protesting against cruise ship visits earlier in the week, something called Fight Back Together at Addington Raceway, Labour weekend seeing a climate liberation, Aotearoa anti-heli tourism protest at multiple locations around the metro area and wider Canterbury rural area, and protest at the Methven Rodeo. So all of these things take up quite a large number of our police resources, which will sadly mean that when people call for service, there is less opportunity for us to get to some of the calls that we might otherwise like to. And what might happen is that might manifest in complaints to the community board, for example, say, why can't we get police here? Why can't we get police there? Or even within your own areas that you guys are working, you might be hearing from the public to say, we're not seeing the police as much. What can you do about it? And some of this is why I tell you about these sorts of things, because these things do impact on our ability to get to some events. Not all the time, because the busiest times for us, as you know, are generally speaking, starting on a Thursday evening through to Sunday night, Monday morning. So the rest of the time, there are still good numbers of resources working all around the Christchurch area, able to do things that hopefully impact for the better on communities. Just as an example, we've been focusing a heap on road policing just recently, and that's partly because we've got some obligations to the government to produce certain numbers of returns on certain things, and if we don't, we won't get funding. So as a result of that, there's been a huge increase just recently on road policing, which you may have seen police activity. During the month of September, 404 separate police road checkpoints were undertaken, and 3,412 times where the police stopped somebody driving their car or a group of people driving a car because it looks suspicious. So plenty of positive activity happening out in the community, which I think that's a real barometer of how well we're doing when we can say that 3,400 times in the last month we were able to stop a suspicious vehicle travelling around, and who knows what that may have prevented. Sometimes nothing, because it would have just been somebody committing maybe a minor traffic infringement. Other times it could have been a group of people maybe intent on burgling or harming some other people. Gangs still remain a real focus for us in Christchurch. You've seen some positive, what we would say positive interaction with gang groups of recent times, and that will continue with some new legislation that's coming our way. There is a fairly large gang event about to happen in Canterbury within the next month. It's involving a lot of police planning. Probably for most people that will only manifest itself in maybe some gang members on bikes travelling in convoy over one particular weekend. But whether we like it or not, whether you like it or not, and whether you believe it or not, take it from me that the only thing that gangs are interested in is running drugs. And so that's why we're clamping down on them, because by and large, that's how they make their money, and that's the harm that they're causing the community. It's unbelievable the amount of drugs that are turning up in wastewater testing. It's almost impossible to believe that it can all be here in this market, and it probably actually isn't. This is a destination for organised crime at times. So some real challenges for police going forward. Did you have question about Hornby?
Oh, just the Hornby station. Is there any chance of getting that better manned?
It's probably a question for Lane Todd and
Yeah.
Truth, but in general terms, there's one officer there. When he's not available, that we generally don't have what we call the fat in the system to replace him often. It's a real challenge actually across the whole metro area to keep front counters open at stations. That doesn't mean to say the station's not manned, but I know your thoughts on some of that. If people can't actually come into the front door, then it may appear to people that we're not there.
Yeah.
Hornby, unlike most of the other stations, though, is one that doesn't have a 24/7 police response, as you know.
Yeah.
So I take that on board, and Lane knows about it. I think he's addressed it I know he's addressed it at a relatively recent public meeting. I think as members of the community, though, you don't always have to accept that what I say or what anybody else say is right. So if that's something that's of concern to this community board, then I just keep feeding that to Lane as something you're not happy about.
Absolutely.
Squeaky wheels get the oil.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll keep on that, believe me.
Can I just add on that issue of Hornby? Are you aware of growing development in Selwyn, particularly at Lincoln, which has been approved under the fast track program? So there's a lot of houses going out in Lincoln proposed. So that area is going to be, for people coming in, will get worse and worse.
Mm.
And the number of crimes potentially in this whole area are going to increase.
I'm aware to a certain point, but as you may or may not remember, the area that I'm responsible for is the Christchurch metro area. So at the end of the Hornby
I see. Okay.
community area is the end of the area that I'm responsible for. But I am aware through my driving to Lincoln often now that it's almost houses all the way between Halswell and Lincoln.
Yes.
And certainly within our lifetime, it's going to be.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's something that as a board, if you have concerns about that should be raised up to make sure that the police are considering that.
Please are aware.
I know that there's some consideration about going 24/7 at the Rolleston police station,
Yeah.
and that's still in progress. It hasn't happened as quickly as we wanted to.
Yeah, and
But
that's probably fine too, you know what I mean? But something out there.
Yeah, I think that's a recognition that the area is developing so fast.
Mm.
But the Selwyn policing area actually is policed by the commander. Actually sits out at Rangiora
Oh,
as a station
So-
in his base. But he's got many people at Rolleston Station, but there's a boundary that, not a physical boundary, but there's a boundary that's sort of not crossed by each, because we're not looking for more work.
Mm.
But it's something that needs to be considered, because from a policing point of view, criminals don't have a boundary.
no.
And so, you know, or if it's a road policing issue, the boundary just doesn't happen because somebody says, I'm no longer in Selwyn.
Yeah.
You know, the road policing issues still occur all along the southern motorway.
And it's been on the fast track program. I've just read from the media. So,
Right.
but there's a growing development at Lincoln and also out in Ahoka. So the commander will have both.
I would like to think
Yeah.
that it's known, but I think it's well worth as a community board, if it's going to touch on something that you're interested in, that you raise it whenever
Okay.
possible,
Good.
and maybe seek some further sort of comment about it
Mm.
to be reassured.
So anything else?
Yeah.
Anybody else have any? I have a question. You mentioned at the beginning, a lot of several events happening scheduled within the next couple of months. And in terms of your resourcing issues, so would you say you have a good number of policemen around, or do you get from outside of Christchurch for resourcing?
So on certain events, we can call on additional resources. So generally speaking, I would say, I think the official position is we've always got enough. Could we do with more? Yeah, absolutely. Would we like more if we were offered it? Absolutely. But there's an argument that more police will just find more offending, whether that exists or not, in terms of, is it offending that we're really interested in, or is it just because there are more police, they see more things, and maybe if we didn't see it, it might not result in an offence that needs police attention. I'm thinking more low-level things perhaps, as opposed to more serious crime. For the gang event that I touched on, there are additional resources coming from out of Christchurch to help us with that weekend, for example, because that will extend beyond our capabilities normally, but we're talking hundreds of gang members from all over the world coming to Christchurch.
Oh, the world.
What the event is?
It's just a rally for a particular gang. So that's an unusual type of event. It's not something we haven't seen here before, but this is meant to be larger than we've ever seen. So,
Can I ask about the gang patches? I know.
Hang on,
Oh,
we
sorry.
got 1 minute
Okay.
left for Roy.
so for as we get into the busier season, which is generally the summertime, we restrict our leave capabilities, our leave opportunities for people, as an example of making sure we have the right number of people. The festivals that happen, the ones in the park, demand a lot of resources, albeit for just one day. But even for one day of policing with a whole lot of extra resources means a whole lot of changes, which impact for perhaps a week around the peripheral. So all of these things have to be thought about being able to keep up our response. Our response teams and our other teams, such as our prevention group, which I'm part of, overlap when they need to. But generally speaking, the emphasis on the police at the present time is about response. So that is always filled first. So I would like to think that when people call the police and they need them, such as the events that I've called out here, they will get the immediate response that's required when people call. Will we get to everything all the time? Maybe not. But by the same token, I don't see people suffering harm because police haven't attended. And I think that's also a good barometer of whether we're actually getting to the things that matter.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Roy. Run out of time.
Okay.
Sorry, Alan.
It's not right.
Can talk offline sometime.
It's fine.
You'll bump into him in Riccarton, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you very
Roy.
much.
And before we move on to transport, I forgot to mention, we do have an apology from Debbie, and Tyler will be joining in Zoom shortly.
And Mike for lateness.
I'm sorry,
I'll put an apology for lateness.
and apology for lateness from Hank. And
Give it a change.
Give it to me, all right. Yeah, listen to me.
Yeah,
If you want to give a.
Yeah, I'll give a ring.
Something that we spoke
right, we'll have the transport.
Come on, Dave.
Thank you.
I'll sit up here. I know.
What happened to your laptop?
Oh, it's just like.
You've been busy.
Have you
People with
Been busy. Keeps this.
Keeps in order.
He's been throwing at too many councillors.
Fair enough.
So I don't know if you all know us, Steve Guy's maintenance manager. Steve Wright is the operations manager. I'm manager of planning and delivery for transport, and Dave Edge is our asset management team leader. So lots of the programs that we'll come to later on have come out of his team. So that's why we've brought him along, because they'll be able to talk to some of the specifics. But I will start with some sort of more generic stuff, and then we'll go into the specifics that are related to your board. So that's the purpose of programs, rationale for selecting them. And then I've tried to pick some projects and programs that are particularly relevant to your community board. Basically, we've got about 1.6 billion in our capital for transport over the next 10 years. When we did the long-term plan, that was split into access, environment and safety. And below that are a set of programs which try to hit different levels of service in different ways. And below that are the individual projects that we do. So when using projects, they all sit in a program, which sits under a pillar, which is in the transport portfolio. So you see that sort of progression that hopefully makes some sort of sense. Many of the programs were fully drawn down, some were partially drawn down during the LTP. So the top one there is an example of one that was fully drawn down. So in the LTP, you could see every single project that was in that program, but there are lots of them that weren't drawn down. And we've done quite a bit of work to say, right, well, where are the priorities? Why do we pick these and which ones should we do first? And the one below is an example of where there wasn't that specific projects within the LTP. And that's really what we're here to talk to you about today. How do we choose the projects and priorities? It depends massively on the particular program. But we use a massive amount of data that comes from all sorts of different places. So I'll talk about NZTA funding in a minute, because that drives a lot of it. Some of it is legislative changes. So, I mean, the speed program that Steve's team were working on and has now been reversed. We've got another speed program to reverse that is in there. Asset condition data, which is what Dave's team holds, and asset age and asset use. And the screenshots I show on there are some of the specific data that we use. The top left is our traffic counts, and we do that all around the city. That's public information. You can go on our website and look it up. The top right looks at the condition of the road. So it uses a truck that then measures deflection. And that gives us an idea of what the structure of the road is like, not just the condition of the surface. So you can have rough roads which are strong underneath. You can have roads that look reasonably smooth, but are completely gone underneath. And that gives us an idea of the structure of the road underneath. The bottom left is a screenshot from NZTA's CAS tool, which is is recorded safety incidents. So things like Church Corner that have come to you. The data that we report to you about how many accidents comes directly from that tool. So it's a nationwide, consistently measured way of doing things. And the bottom right is just a screenshot from the NLTP. So that's funding from NZTA. So we're going to put up some projects. We'll talk to you about in a minute. Question is, are they fixed? And the answer to that is no. So this year's is locked in. Next year's is pretty much locked in. But things will change. We'll find out that a road that we thought was in good condition is actually deteriorated really fast. Funding may change. Legislation may change. And that means we have to constantly change those programs. But like I said, you'll probably find that next year is probably 95 to 90%, 99% locked in. You'll probably find that the ones that are in there for the back end of the LTP in sort of 9 or 10 years will change quite a lot. But just to give you a sense that if the things you see on here don't turn out to happen, that's quite normal, and that will happen. Right, NZTA funding. So I've been told, I've never actually been to finance and verified this, but I've been told several times that our NZTA funding is our second biggest source of funding after rates. So it's really big, and it has specific rules about what we can do and how we have to do it and the way that we do it in order to get the level of funding. We've been really successful in this NLTF. So for our maintenance, operation and renewals, we've got a 30% increase compared to last times, 3 years ago, and we're well above, I think, any of the other South Island. Way above any of the South Island councils, and we're way above any of comparable metropolitan councils as well. So we have done really, really well on this. But like I said, we have to be really, really strict about the kinds of projects that we do in order to get that funding, or we put that at risk. There are some other sources of funding. CRAF has come to you, someone coming to you later on today. Is there Shovel Ready, which is for our MCR and Coastal Pathway, and there's a Crown Resilience programme that we've recently had for retaining walls. Again, they have really strict requirements, really strict scope, and we have to follow what we're told in order to keep that funding. So, do you want me to take questions? Because I've sort of done the generic bit, and from here we go straight into detail. So if you do have any questions about everything I've said today.
Well, it's a question about what's on the screen, actually.
Okay.
And how you decide as to what roads will be chip sealed, what will be asphalt. Like, for example, Halswell Junction Road does not qualify for chip seal, but there's a consultation out at the moment for Marine Parade for asphalt. I'm like, if Halswell Junction Road doesn't qualify for asphalt, how on earth would Marine Parade?
So Marine Parade is a CRAF project. So CRAF is selected by the community board with the scope chosen by the community board.
She's saying it's purely because of the CRAF funding.
Yeah.
That Marine Parade is being considered for asphalt.
Yes. Yeah. If
So-
it was not CRAF funded, there is no way we would. Well, I should probably look at YouTube before I say that. But as far as I understand, there is no way that would ever qualify for asphalt.
That to me suggests that CRAF funding is being misused.
Hmm.
If it's being used to fund treatment for roads that don't need it as much as others do.
It was there for community regeneration, accessibility. I can't remember the exact criteria now. But you could use it for that. You've used it for road renewals in certain places around your area, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, it was originally intended for fixing the roads, then it turned into everything. That helps.
It's a pretty broad scope, I give you on CRAF. But I mean, if that's what they want to spend their money on, that's what they're spending money on. It means they'll get a lot less stuff done. The money that's been allocated to their board.
Yeah. Understand what you're saying.
Yeah. But that's not the MOR funding. So that's not the NZTA and LTF funding.
Yeah.
And in order to access funding through that, Dave's projects and Steve's maintenance teams will need to follow the rules that NZTA set.
Yeah, just us chip sealing obviously much busier roads with heavier vehicles over roads like this without that, to me seems bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
It was a special pot, wasn't it?
It was.
Correct. Yeah.
Unexpected too. It's just
Yeah,
paying for
yeah, but we
government.
didn't have to use it for asphalting roads that
No,
don't need
no,
it.
it was,
This is a council choice. It never had to do that.
so each board
that's
was
made sense
asked
to
what they
misuse.
wanted to some extent, weren't they? I remember we had a list and we chose back that list.
Yeah.
For our board.
So the board obviously chose to do it all on Riccarton Road and not also
Anybody
New roads.
have any more questions?
I've got
None for me.
Helen?
Just in terms of the change from taking away speed treatments, have you made money or lost money on it?
We're still working through that. Quite quickly, we're hoping to do a bit of a debrief for the next annual plan meeting next week.
Okay,
There are people working away in the background just trying to work out the full implications.
the implication.
Yes, it could end up costing us a fair bit,
Okay, thank you.
but
That's fine.
we'll give an update on that next week. It'll
Thank
be available publicly.
And do we go to the minister there and ask him to help bail that out?
If we need more money, we're going to ask for it. Sure.
Right, then
Right.
belong.
Yes, that's-
So before we jump into the surfacing and other condition related ones, I think this is quite a good diagram. These two completely disagree with me, but there we go. I think the key point to take away from it is that resurfacing is literally the sealed bit at the top. It's nothing below that. Like I said before, you can have rough surfaces where actually the structure underneath is fine, and then all you need to do is surface straight over the top. If actually the structure underneath is gone, you can have a good surface, but it will fall apart fairly quickly. And that's where rehabilitation comes in.
So I'll just jump in there, because one of your roads, Faranui Road, was exactly that. So we went through there and of course, Three Waters, a whole load of contractors have been through there and done loads of different work, and they changed the shape of the road. When we looked at it, we were pretty adamant in our heads, I mean, the contractors, that the rough bits were going to have the worst strength under the road, and the really smooth bit next to it was going to be really strong. Turned out to be completely opposite. But one of the pictures you saw on there before was a slide with a whole load of green dots in it. So recently, we've had a truck drive all of our sealed roads, and it's measured every sealed road that we've got. Well, nearly all of them. Couldn't get to one or two because the road works. We can now tell what the strength is in every one of our sealed roads down to the nearest meter. And because of the traffic counts, we know what the residual remaining life of every section of road is around the whole of Christchurch and Banks Peninsula.
That's a pretty cool claim.
Well, we've got the data now. So that's what, we've got a 30-year strategy with a 10-year plan. So that's what it's all informed by.
So rehabilitation, is curb to curb. So that's the road and the structure underneath the road. Street renewals is the complete boundary to boundary bit that gives the opportunity for the board to say, actually, we don't want this street to be like this. We want it to be like this. So they take a bit longer. They go through consultation and so on, whereas rehabilitation and resurfacing are just done. They're like for like. Boom.
And Amy's Road
Renewal
would come under that street renewal category.
Will the street renewal include the street resurfacing and rehabilitation?
Everything.
Yeah.
Build it
Yeah.
again.
Build it again, effectively, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there may be bits you can salvage, but yeah, effectively it's build it again. Blank slate, build it again.
Is that what you did on Bradshaw Terrace?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
But again, that was crap.
Yes.
Faranui was resurfacing,
Sorry?
Faranui Road,
No, Faranui was a rehab.
a rehab.
So we didn't do footpath and curb, but we put strength back into the road to give that road another 80 years of life, as long as we keep maintaining that surface.
Right, thank you.
So then we get completely into specifics. So I'll sort of open it up for questions. I've got road surfacing renewals for this year. Next year's is draft, so there's still potential for that to change a bit, but it's probably
Significantly.
like I said, it's probably mostly there, I would think.
We'll be adding more to that, but that's, my plan is to come to you within the next couple of months anyway and talk through options.
Road rehabilitation, that's all we have funding for this year. So it's those 4 projects. Street renewals, they're the ones in your area. So some of those are already allocated. Some of those are pretty much done. I think the Banks and Kissel certainly are done. There are 4 there selected for allocation. And then I've put the ones at the bottom that qualified, but because of funding weren't prioritised. So so they're the ones in your area. And then we've got footpath renewals, and then so I'll stop and take questions about the condition related stuff.
So I suppose the first thing I've got for you is our roads and footpaths web page and the council's website has been updated. So I was talking about it historically when I came in last time. We've been working with our communications teams to change some of the wording on it to make it very, very easy for members of the public to be able to use that site and understand all parts of it. So everything that's on there for the 24 for this financial year has been on there for about a year already. And we're working through the stuff for next financial year, and that I'll probably look to put that on in the next 2 or 3 months' time once it's confirmed. But as we said, as Jacob was working on there, within the maintenance side, I only work in the current year and the next year. I do a lot of planning out further out, but I only publish what we're doing in those short periods.
Great.
Can I ask about Eyre Street? That's on a possible, it's not down, is it, or is it down?
For what?
Eyre Street, AYR.
So we've got it there for footpath renewals. It's on.
It's going to happen, is it? Rather than, or is it one of the ones that could happen, but
For footpath renewals, it will happen.
although Eyre Street's down.
It's in
Oh, it's
it's
not
next
working.
year. It's in
Yes,
it's in next year's programme.
because that's got a huge amount of intensification in some of it now.
It's not working.
So it's, yeah. Yeah.
What have I done?
Oh, wrong then. Sorry. We were
Jacob's killed
something here.
I've
killed the
broken it.
point.
He's got a
You won't be
habit of
like
doing this.
My magic touch. Eyre Street.
Go on to the right. You go. You've gone too far left.
Where do you want it there?
No, keep going right. You go. Oh no, next one.
Yeah, that's it. It's down.
That's all there.
It's down for footpath, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in financial year 26.
That's next financial year.
So bear in mind, when it comes to the maintenance renewals for this, my budget is extremely small. So it has to be based on the priorities that come from council's asset team, working with council's requirements and Waka Kotahi's requirements of where you spend the money in order prioritisation.
Cool. Anything else on road surfacing?
Amy's Road was due for resurfacing
Yeah.
in this coming season, but of course that's now been out because of its condition.
Absolutely.
Winding up the renewals. So I'm confident that we're not going to throw good money after bad by resurfacing a road that's stuff like that.
That'll be a full
So,
big job.
so that's something that Jacob can answer for you.
So we'll get to that, I'm sure.
I'm just going to talk a little bit about our minor safety programs. So we've got two.
Could I quickly just touch on one?
Yeah.
So I see Springs Road's here for some asphalt near the top end by Main South. But there's a piece that was, I think, asphalted about 3 or 4 years ago. That's honeycombed, that's breaking up quite badly. So I'm picking that might be lining up for a bit of rejuvenation or
No, I'm looking at replacing it.
rehabilitation
Yeah,
to strengthen the
absolutely.
underneath. Cool, thank you.
So we've got two minor safety programs. The big difference between the two, one is very much a data-driven program, and the other is more based on community feedback, where we don't have to align with NZTA's prioritisation process as much. So I'll talk about the first one, which is the minor safety or minor road safety and school safety. We've combined them both together. And this program is very much data driven. We prioritise the need for these sites or these projects based on risk. And you'll have heard a lot of this stuff before. But yeah, that's all based on NZTA's Kiwi Wrap system, the CAS database, and we try and spend the money where we're going to get the best outcome and get the best bang for buck from a reduction in DSIs. The school side of that is we've prioritised them ourselves as per that criteria there. So 70% on risk, accessibility, community and equity, or 10% on those. We do try and tie in with other projects as well for value for money. Tying in with Steve's maintenance job or signals recabling jobs and so on. So the programme for this is always relatively fixed. It's not to say it's completely locked in. There is, we can swap and change stuff. But again, we have to try and target the worst areas with this programme. I just skipped to the next part, which is the minor road safety intervention programme. This is a relatively small budget we have for this one. It used to be 300k and it's just been increased to 600. And this is one where it's not so much driven by data. This is more where we're trying to deal with issues that the community raise. So somebody might be asking for pedestrian refuge on a certain street. It's never going to stack up in a million years if you just look at the data across the whole city. But to that community, it's really important. And that's why we have this programme to try and deal with those local community type issues. And this is a programme where, as a board, you all have a really big influence on what the priorities are. Just flick over to you can see that's the minor safety intervention. Yeah. So in this one here, there's actually quite a few projects in here that are in your board. And what I would say is, if we haven't already started work on them, or if you as a board haven't already approved them, if you've got other ideas or other projects that you think are more important than the ones on here, come and speak to us and we can shift these around if we need to. This is what we've taken as priority based on the feedback and information we've got. But similarly, if you think, if you disagree, or as a board, you want to swap and change the ones that are in your board or substitute ones that are in your board for other ones, come and talk to us through Andrew, and we can swap and change them if we need to.
Only two, I think.
There might only be two on my
Kashmir Road and Springs Road.
yeah.
That Oak Ridge, that's Halswell.
English streets in Riccarton.
Yeah, there's Springs Road Main south, there's Oak Ridge at Nichols Road, new pedestrian refuge.
Yeah.
Then English Street by Main South Road as well.
Yep.
So we can swap and change those. I know there's a few other issues that have been popping up in the area that people have been talking to us about. And again, those, particularly the Springs Road and the Oak Ridge one, they're a year or so away or 2 years away anyway. So we can really easily substitute those for other ones if you think as a board there's other higher priority treatments of a similar nature. We're not, don't substitute a whole intersection upgrade for a pedestrian refuge because that won't work from a budget point of view. But of projects of a similar nature, as a board, try and come together and decide what you think you'd like to see. There is quite a few schools in your area that we're looking to do work on. So if you look at the school safety bit there, I apologise, it's quite small to read there, but bear in mind this programme's for the whole city. There's probably more schools in your area on there than there is for any other area. There's Island School, Horswell School, Oaklands, Villa Maria, Knightstream, Riccarton High, Kirkwood, and there's another Villa Maria on a Pier Street as well. So there's quite a few school projects there. But again, on the school ones, we welcome your feedback on them. If you think there's others that are a higher priority than some of them, particularly the ones that are in the later years, come and talk to us and we can look at how we negotiate and shift those around a bit if we need to.
Yes, there's one that Mark Peters has got, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, probably heard St Bernadette's.
Yep.
In the desire to get some white lines on there.
Can I
Awesome.
just ask, when you say to shift over and to swap over, is within our board or with another
Just
board area?
within your board.
Yes.
Just within our
Yeah.
board. But if they're in the same year anyway,
If they're in the same year, it almost depends on how far down the process we are. If we've already done consultation, if we've already had it approved by the board, then it's too late, obviously. But if we've already gone out to consultation, then it's we've probably already lost a fair amount of time and resources on that particular project. If we haven't gone out to consultation, we've only just started doing scheme design, it's not as much of an issue. If we haven't done any work on it, let's talk about it and we can see if we can substitute it. It'd be a lot easier. There's more of a practicality side. For the bigger projects that Steve and Jacob work on, and some of the big ones like Church Corner, once the amount of work that goes into those bigger projects, and that's why Jacob was saying at the start, the first year's locked in, second year is probably 50–60% locked in. And that's just because of the amount of work that's gone into it. Whereas these projects are quite small, and quite easy to implement. So we don't need to be as fixed on locking them in so soon.
Do you have an idea of the work that's going to be involved in each school?
I don't personally, but the team will. So
Be good to get an idea of what's proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I could arrange is for one of the traffic engineers and myself to come and present a more detailed version of this to you just on the minor safety stuff. So this is what we're proposing over the next, say, 3 years, but for minor safety and minor safety interventions.
So give me an example of what you're meaning by minor safety.
Pedestrian refuges, the other end of the minor safety, well, I mean, Church Corner's been done under minor safety. That's like the
That's
top
specifically
end.
with the schools.
The school stuff is going to be relatively minor. So be pedestrian refuges. Looking at the prices in there, there might be a couple of signalised crossings put in, raised platforms, zebra crossings.
Lights.
Yep. So there's a few in there.
John Galleria got one on Pier Street. Ethel Deers.
Yeah, some of them are detailed, some of them.
Yeah, North Night Stream's got signalised as well, I think. As well.
Yeah, so I think it would be good if we came to you and actually went through all the minor safety stuff in detail with you as a board.
Yeah,
And
and
then-
then from there we work out the priority. Yeah.
Yep. And if there is a specific issue that you may be aware of that others aren't, then raise it and we can see how relevant it is. And if it's actually warrants knocking one of the other ones out of the way, which it may well do.
So Stephen, Andrew Hensley is coming to the next information session.
When's that? booked?
November
November.
27th.
Is that too late? That was the question I
It
was
won't be too late, but that'll be perfect timing.
because basically my understanding is you have to get in your bids before Christmas.
Yes.
Is sort of that your understanding? A board, if you leave it till January, February, it's too late.
These are not annual plan.
Yeah, these
So
are.
I think that's the difference. Annual plan, if you're looking for additional funding through the annual plan, then yes, it
Yeah.
does. But the budget is set and it's just about
Just swapping.
what projects sit in that budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got it, and I have to apologise to Mark. I thought Andrew was coming
No,
this afternoon.
no.
So the St Bernadette School is a big issue.
Yeah.
No, it is.
As far as I'm concerned. The other question I've got is, we're meant to have a crossing outside the mosque, and that seems to be on the order paper for about.
You should be hearing about that later today.
Just put that out in the corner.
Yeah.
Hold your breath.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because that was about 2-3 years ago.
Hold your breath. on that one.
Yeah. As part of this workshop today, we weren't really intending to go into the fine detail of each project.
Okay,
We were more trying to give you an overview of the whole transport programme.
Yeah.
But what, in terms of detail for these projects, I'll tie in with Andrew and we'll come to that one, briefing in November and give you the fine detail on these ones, and that's where we can discuss each one in more detail.
I think everybody else is much more interested also in the specifics of these
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, definitely.
Good, but yeah,
Okay.
back to the animal plan.
Yeah, perfect. So I'll skip these, the same. No, it's back to you, Jacob.
It's back to me. Okay. This is where I try and pull out specific programs that I think will be of interest to particular boards. So we find out how well I know what you want or not. So I've got some information here about new footpaths, because I know that was something that
that's all.
Councillor Moore raised during LTP. And sorry, Andy. Okay, subdivisions. And then I've just got a few bits on things that are in the annual plan or maybe influenced by the annual plan, just up for discussion. So new footpaths. At the moment, we are going to spend the first year working out what our priorities are. And at the moment, that is our list of candidates. So that is what will be prioritised. If you have things that aren't on there, you need to let us know so that because otherwise they will not be prioritised, and you'll come back in a year's time and say, why is it not there? And we'll say it was never there as a candidate. So
this is not yet
this is not yet. No, this is the
Priority.
list of candidates that we will prioritise.
Can we give you all some ideas now?
Could you submit them through the board? If that's all right.
But bear in mind, just need to clarify,
Up in the LTP and showing nowhere in there.
Yeah, this is ones that we've got from Hybris tickets, from a whole series of different places. But if it's not something that's been picked up
I mean, I was
by
part
our
of the
team,
LTP that will be
yeah.
looked at the first year.
So yeah, so let us know through the board and we'll put them on the list. I can't guarantee they'll be done, but they'll be at least in the running.
I'll be extremely annoyed if you don't start looking at them.
So just be aware, in order to differentiate this is new footpaths.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where there's never been one, rather than what we talked about before is renewing existing footpaths.
Yeah. Yeah.
Springs Road.
And
Mayfield Road.
All right, Andre?
Now that this is in the long-term plan, I guess the question is, how can we start making sure that we're going to be extracting development contributions for them? Because most of those should be getting funded through DCs, not with rates.
Well,
we're the wrong people. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That sounds like a real cop out, but DCs are done through a different team, and we don't really deal with it at all.
Yep.
But obviously, we do our best to try and get as much DC.
Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's dealt with outside of transport. So
Yeah.
and then subdivisions. So there's a small pot at the top there, which is to deal with little odds and sods that come up through subdivisions. But the sort of bigger things that we know about are there. Obviously, they're completely driven by developers, so the years could vary wildly. But that is what we've allowed money for at the moment.
Yeah, most of that will definitely be DCs.
Well, that's the issue you need to solve at council, isn't it? You need to have some resolution in the annual plan that in terms of development contributions that done when a new subdivision goes.
Well, it'll take care. It's been taking care of this kind of thing.
It's not.
But it hasn't taken care of those missing bits that weren't put in during certain times.
And the funding can go anywhere too.
But now that those things are in the long-term plan, we will be able to start extracting.
Yeah,
development
okay.
benefits. But as far as
Well, we used to have.
That's how I understand it.
but we're reviewing the policy now, so.
Yeah.
it's the-
But I said it's not like NLTF funding where we have a project and there's a fund directly related to it. It's a pot of revenue that comes in through a different stream, and in transport we don't really get that directly involved with it. So
Yeah, because if there's like 2 million a year in funding for new footpaths, I mean, it's not going to get us very far.
No.
But if we're able to start extracting DCs for what I would say would be a lot of those, then that number could be a lot more without it impacting rates.
And then that's my annual plan consideration. So various bits and bobs on there that I think would be of interest to you. Amy Springs out here. I was sent an update on where we are, so I need to get that to you because you asked that on
'Cause we lost
Tuesday.
We made a decision on it in PX on Tuesday, aren't we? On Wednesday.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see that, but I'll get up to speed on that. But
So
certainly
is
I was-
that going to have an increase, or is it?
So
to be
we've
discussed?
requested additional funding
Okay.
through the annual plan for that,
Okay.
based on the workshop that
Okay.
that Andrew held
That's
here.
good, actually.
Lincoln Road public transport, it got a surprisingly high alignment in the NLTP. So our plan at the moment is that we'll pick it up, we'll move it out. That'll give us time to go through the business case process, and we may well be able to get funding for that later in the LTP or in the next LTP. So there's sort of a strategic game there to try and get.
And that's partly
funding.
sprayed in Cashmere, isn't it?
Yes,
It used
yeah,
to
but
be,
it's.
used to be theirs completely, and then in the last election, the Riccarton ward moved
But it-
further
So
over.
that's entirely spread in water.
But it affects your board, I think.
And
I don't think
it does.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unfair to say that the reason it's there is to help people in
Oh,
into town more quick, in and out of town more quickly.
Okay.
So,
Bus lanes
So
for MBTA,
it's theirs
stop
completely, is it?
and then start again.
yeah.
Well, that part of it is,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's fine.
It'd be the missing bus link.
I don't want to be tangled up with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
neither do I.
And then
Yeah.
the MCRs,
Like it seems nuts to me.
South Express is just on the bit of Kyle Park. We're hoping to go out to tender before Christmas on the section from Waterloo Business Park out to Templeton. And then that leaves us with the level crossing at Parker Gilthorpe's Waterloo, which I definitely want to talk about it, really. And Northern Line, I know it's not in your board area, but obviously it brings people down into your board area. So we've done the level crossings up at the top in Papanui, and then the final section is the section from Kilmarnock down to Old Blenheim Road, which is, we're sort of working on it. It's been approved, but my suspicion is it requires a significant amount more money because of Kiwi Rail.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's not being actively progressed. I would say they've got other priorities.
Is that the Dean's Avenue, what the Dean's Avenue precinct people want?
Yes, yeah, it is. So it goes Kilmarnock, Riccarton, down to Old Blenheim and links into the South Express down by Tower Junction.
It's important to get it because the public want it there. In fact, that's one of the ironies, that you've got some in Hornby that people don't want. You've got one that people do. And I know it's Kiwi Rail partly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing is, there are plenty of other cycle routes that they can take fringe of.
But it somehow makes sense, that one. It's not going to infringe anybody's sort of perception of their suburb or anything. And it's like, we can't, what is Kiwi Rail's problem with it?
They have no issue with the corridor work.
Okay.
The problem is that, well, I should say the problem for us, but anyway, from a cost perspective, is there are 3 level crossings in that part. And every time we do any level crossing work, we have to bring the entire level crossing up to the very highest standard. And often their signalling is quite old. And that means a complete renewal of the signals, which is where the real expense comes in. I mean, the gates that you see, I mean, I'm not going to say they're cheap, but they're not the expensive bit. It's the signals upgrades that's where it gets expensive.
Their cost.
No, it's
charge us.
entirely council.
It's council cost.
It's entirely council.
They milk us really.
So the only other part on there that we haven't raised is
One thing to argue for.
it's the section of Horswell Junction Road that we are now maintaining, that we've taken over from the agency. And that's from the Fulton Hogan Yard, State Highway 1, all the way down to the roundabout. So we've now taken that on and we're maintaining that section of road. I'm just waiting.
Which round?
Springs Road.
Springs Road. So I'm just waiting for the money from the agency for that. It's not going to get used anywhere else. It's ring-fenced for that project. And I'll be meeting up with contractors over the next couple of weeks to come up with a plan on what we can do there. Because we are very limited. Because that road, when it was built with only about less than half a metre of material before all the services under the ground. And you look at the vehicles it takes. So
You look at the holes on there.
yeah, we have to come up with some magic.
Lose
So I'm going to
structure
come up with some magic
I don't see.
and fix it. But we'll be looking, if we get the money this financial year, I'll be doing planning this year for it to be fixed and renewed next year. So that's the time frame.
Interesting road to drive down because you'll weave from one side to the other just to get around the holes. Because the holes for the side.
It is.
It's incredible drive.
So that's it. I mean, that's everything I've got on the list. So you've just got us for questions. Yeah.
Can we hold you to January 25 for that crossing swap?
You can hold us to anything you like. That's what we're told. That's what I was told today. They have done work in the rail corridor as of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So they are moving on with it, but yeah, they haven't 100% committed to the January block of line yet. But yeah, that's what we're told.
Because I've got a meeting next week with Andre Lovett.
Yeah.
And Mr. Icon, I think it is. Network operations guys.
Yeah.
Name's Andre.
Yes.
With an I?
No, I don't think so. I think it's me.
Oh, Andre.
Andre. Yeah.
But that should be the switch over of 2 level crossings, and then for us, it's the finishing off the old piece of Bulls Junction from Panther Place.
Yes.
And then the bit of South Express that goes across Panther Place up to the new Horswell Junction Road.
Right, we've got 5 minutes left.
Yes. So are those last 4 projects, and we'll take out the Lincoln Road one, are those 3 planned for, or do they have to be argued for?
They will need to be voted for by councillors. So they are staff recommendations at this stage.
Okay, so we'll have to, as a board, we'd have to put through those 3, if in fact we want them. We'd have to make.
Support that.
Yeah, I mean,
our
if you
submission.
support them, it
Yeah.
definitely helps if you advocate for them.
Yes.
In theory, councillors can vote for,
Yes,
they like,
you vote out.
whether you support it or not, but.
There are a couple of things which I didn't get specifically named in the LTP, which I was promised were going to be addressed. One being the missing footpaths around Main South, Woolworths Countdown Corner. The footpath program is going to take a look at that and get it sort of into the priority list. And
That's along Main South from Woolworths across
To-
to Main South.
to the hub.
I mean, that's got all sorts of property issues and
Yes.
derail issues and
Yeah.
so on that I don't think we're able to do it at this stage, are we? We don't own
We
the
Need
land.
to start planning to do it because.
I mean, it would need to be a
talking about
standalone project.
6
There's no
years.
way it could be done under that new footpaths because the cost of property and key rail interface is going to be way beyond what that. I mean, it'll eat that entire program in one go.
Believe me, that is going to be something I'm going to start to get everyone to, let's not put it into too hard basket. We need to find a way to start progressing it towards.
What makes it so expensive? I don't understand it.
Because it touches
I'm a
rail,
bit
it touches
Yeah.
NZTA and it touches council. It's all three agencies. Good luck.
They do actually, but yeah, they've done it for a long time too.
And the other one was Springs Road. I specifically mentioned in my questioning for the LTP from Boston Ave down to the motorway. The footpaths stop just after Boston Ave, and then there's fantastic shared paths down the motorway, but there's no way of getting between. People walk down the edge of the road all the time to get down there. It's quite a busy road. Then the other one was
That sounds like the sort of thing that could potentially be done under the new footpaths. And like I said, if you can feed that back through the,
Yep.
through the,
Yeah. And the Woolworths Road is another one.
the,
Woolworths Road, the back end of Warren Park.
yeah.
It's a real boggy mess out there during winter.
Thanks.
Then, of course, ABR and TF Springs. Look forward to the conversations about that one.
Angel even had footpaths.
Right, all done, all good, we're within
That's very good actually.
time, and thank you, Jacob, David, Stephen, Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, that sounds really useful, definitely.
Yeah.
To go and as in depth as this each year will.
What under the
Life so much easier. This is the most detailed,
same.
well, before an
Yeah.
any plan that
It's
I can
great
remember
to have
seeing
that.
in my.
Thank
5
you
years.
so much.
Thank you.
Right.
The finest I've seen.
Nice to meet
We just put the pressure on Gavin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good one weekend,
Okay.
guys.
See ya.
Right. Thanks.
We'll give you
So
Monday
we
off.
have, Three Waters, Gavin,
Max Springs Road is on there.
excellent. Welcome, Gavin. You know everybody?
Road to Boston.
No. I don't know them.
Do around from Helen?
Helen Broughton Riccarton, and I've got an interest in Three Waters. And I sent something through about
Yeah.
private
Yeah.
wells.
You're
Just
Yeah.
introduce
Yes.
you first, and
What is in there?
Mark, your turn.
Oh, Mark Peters, councillor, you know me.
Sarah Brunton, Hornby Community Board.
Hank Hornby.
Andre Halswell.
And Marie Halswell.
Thank you. Yes, Gavin Hutchison. So I'm acting head of Three Waters. I'm normally the planning delivery manager. So, yeah, for quite a few months now, I've been in the acting role.
You're doing a
So-
great job.
Thank you. So this is probably not as exciting as a transport presentation. I apologise. Should have gone first. So what I've done is this has been an annual plan of just really focusing on the changes, and the changes I'm presenting are across the Three Waters portfolio, not necessarily within this ward. So obviously in the LTP, I think we had 720 line items in the Three Waters program. So hence the reason I'm not revisiting that. But obviously, if there's any questions regarding the LTP or any particular projects you want to talk about that aren't presented today in the annual plan changes, and happy to discuss those.
Cool.
Let's into it. So the proposed budget additions to the annual plan, which is over and above what is in the long-term plan currently, is you can see there. So we're adding in additional funding for wastewater new main. So with intensification that's occurring, and also potential impacts from Plan Change 14, where we identify wastewater renewals, and these are generally our smaller 150 ml pipes. They are identified for renewal, and we have capacity. We know that that pipe is capacity, intensification happening, uses funding to upsize the pipe. So any time when we upsize a pipe, we shouldn't take that funding from renewals, because otherwise we'll have less funding for renewals. That should be funded from, obviously that'll come from, intended to come from DC's sizing. The next one is Opara Road catchment. This is a project to reduce I&I. Now, I&I is inflow and infiltration. Essentially, stormwater gets into our network. So we've got a few areas around the city where we are doing work in those areas. And this is a particular project that needs additional funding. Process wastewater treatment plant, additional polymer. So you would have heard recently we got insurance payout for the replacement trickling filters. Currently at the moment there's a temporary system in place. That temporary system is producing a lot more sludge that we need to deal with. So this plant here will allow us to deal with that sludge, but also with a new proposed activated sludge plant that'll be used which will produce more sludge also to deal with that. That's only 600,000. The Wainui wastewater treatment plant, Banks Peninsula, that's a historical issue. The land the plant sits on, we don't own. So we'd like to sort that out. So either purchase that property, or worst scenario, we would have to move the plant. Urban stormwater detention treatment facilities. Again, this is due to intensification. So this is for particularly places like Riccarton, where we've got a lot of intensification happening. So in some of our catchments, we've got about 40% impermeable area. That's the area that water can't soak into. That's going to get up to 70%. So we're going to have a lot more runoff to deal with. So we have put this in to allow us funding that when an opportunity comes up to purchase land that we think will be of benefit to either store and treat stormwater, we'll take that opportunity. The money's there. The reason for us to have that money available to buy land if we see the right land is the other alternative is to upgrade significant amount of pipelines, which is going to be a lot more expensive. So this is opportunity funding. Next line item is Littleton Harbour wastewater. So we obviously did a significant project just recently that was finished. There's a number of items that were kept out of the scope of the Littleton wastewater project because they didn't fit in there, and so this is to go through and do a number of controls, upgrades on some existing assets that were part of that upgrade. And finally, there's the activated sludge plant. So we put out in the long-term plan 115 million. So this takes us up to the funding that we require to complete the project. So that funding will be coming from insurance. Yeah. Move on to this is phasing. So this is where we have looked at our current long-term plan and decided that we need to do some rephasing due to project study. Some projects get held up, some we accelerate. So I won't go through them all in detail. You see them there before you. So I'll just put some highlights that we had a biogas project that was in the order of 10 million that we put out to tender. We had to cancel that tender about 4 weeks ago because it came in twice the price. So we've delayed that project and we're just looking at how to rescope that to get it within the funding. We've brought some funding back for the Akara wastewater treatment plant. We'll be spending more next year than we have in the budget, so we just pulled some funding back from Y30. Some rephasing the Selwyn pump station upgrade, which is to deal with overflows. So that project's is on track, so it's going faster, so we'll bring the funding back. And again, the activated sludge plant, which I just mentioned. So we had, I think we had about 35, 37 million in for next year, because the time of the insurance and we got the project underway, we've pushed out 16 million because we won't spend that. We won't spend 37 million next year. This is drainage or stormwater flooding rephasing. There's a lot more there. That's largely reflected due to quite a few projects being held up due to consenting, but we've got that resolved now with ECAN. A lot of the ORC has been rephased just to draw down from programs and put into some existing projects to get those going. And you see the Addington Brook and Riccarton drain filtration devices. That's going quite well. Sort of brought funding back to keep that going and get that completed. We had two carryover actions that came out of the long-term plan. One was that in the long-term plan, we reduced the amount of funding that was available to the Port Hills Lyttelton Harbour erosion settlement program, and that was money around people within a funding cap that we provided. An action from the LTP was that to reinstate that funding. So we've reinstated it to be 1.2 million per year. So the additional funding you see there brings that up to 1.2 million per year.
Can I just ask a question on the Lyttelton project? Because I've been really concerned that children and families can't swim at Cass and Corsair Bay, as my kids spend a lot of time there, and it's also easy for families who haven't got a lot of money to actually get to. It's still water harbour. What is causing the actual problem there? Is it sludge or is it wastewater?
So we have, in the last 12 months, I know we've been doing quite a bit of work to look for cross, what we call, we've got, there's a lot of, in those situations we could have situations where sewer pipes are connected to circular pipes, cross connections. So we've done a lot of work to try and track that down.
Okay.
We haven't found a huge amount of cross connections. Might have to actually follow up and see where we've got to on that if we've found any.
So sorry, I'm not hearing you. Is it wastewater issues largely? Do you think?
It is, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's from the wastewater network. I mean, cross contamination can be. You've also got boats, chips in the harbour.
Oh, okay.
But also we know in any network I've worked in New Zealand or overseas, we do unfortunately have what we talk about I&I, where we have stormwater connected to the sewer. Again, the opposite happens where someone connects a sewer pipe to the stormwater, for example. So we have done, I forget the technology, but they tested DNA of the bacterial vehicles. So we do know it's human waste also, but there'll also be animal waste in there. So
I see.
There is work being done in conjunction with ECAN to try and get to the bottom of where that contamination is coming from. So obviously with the significant amount of work that's been done in the wastewater, all the wastewater now is pumped over into the city's wastewater treatment plant. There's no discharge occurring in the harbour. And if we were to have an issue there where we had a wastewater overflow, where we would know about it and get that.
So are you
Sorry,
expecting?
I'm just conscious of the time because he has to present to another board as well. So if we can just move on first.
Okay.
Thank you.
The action 2, which we were requested to consider increasing the funding for water main and sub-main renewals. So what we are proposing is that we increase the funding in FY 26 and 27, then come back to the LTP and consult on further funding. So that we've got no concerns in deliverability there. There's plenty of capacity in the market to deliver, and water mains are extremely, I shouldn't say extremely easy, but they are easy for us to put out. And we certainly have a long list of renewals required. So no issues about getting candidates. So capital program. So this is our current funding that we have. So next year we in the LTP was 277 million, going to 328 the following year. So just focus on those first 2 years. Then the net changes that we're putting forward is that in FY 26 there's an increase of 1.8 million in FY 27, 32 million, 38. So and those main changes, FY 27, 28 is, I mentioned before, we pushed out 16 million of the activated sludge, plus we've added in the funding for the water main renewals into the program. So those are the net changes across the Three Waters capital program. So that's what we end up at is next financial year, 280 million, get up to 360 for the following two. So it is a significant step up to what the capital programs had been, but that's largely driven by Acro wastewater treatment plant, the treatment plant replacement of the trucking filters, and there's two other large wastewater projects being the Selwyn pump station and pressure main, which is about 40 million, and Grassmere storage, which is about 35 million. So taken up as part of the capital program. And unfortunately, they all have to be done by FY 30, so can't delay them.
Can't dodge that bullet.
So
Right, thank you, Gavin. So I'll take questions. I've got Hank and then Mark and Helen. You still have?
I've got one.
That's it. Okay, Hank, Mark, and Helen.
You mentioned some stormwater treatment in the beginning.
yes.
I think you've partly answered that. What's the treatment for stormwater? What are you looking for?
Well,
I don't understand.
we were due to our the stormwater consent that we have is one is obviously sedimentation, silt, and the other one is zinc and copper are the other two main culprits that we have to remove from the system. So that's where it's quite challenging, and places that are quite built up, we do have a lot of metals coming into the stormwater network, but we're required to reduce that.
So that's dissolved into water.
Yeah, so that's come from roofs and brake pads. Obviously, and construction is a big challenge, for sedimentation that gets into the network.
And that's what I've forgotten about.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair. Yep. So how do you get that out?
So we've got space. We can build wetlands are very good for removing sedimentation and also metals. It'll capture wetlands.
It's only a pretty short term.
Well, you need a lot of space where we've got built up environment. So there's a current project, Addington Brook, Riccarton main drain. We're putting in a more compact off-the-shelf device. It's called Bioscape. It has a media inside it that when there's a storm event, we push up the stormwater through the media, and the media will filter out zinc, copper, so sedimentation. The downside with a more compact, it has a high operating cost versus a wetland.
Sure.
But obviously in the urban environments, we can't get 10 hectares to. It is stormwater is it is a complicated challenge.
Yeah.
All good?
Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
The transport guys that were here were talking about Amy's Road with a renewal of the whole boundary road. Would you step in at that stage and make sure that the sewers underneath are up to standard and big enough to cope with the intensification that's potentially planned down there from PC14?
Yes, we do work with them, and so I mean I know when they had up on the slide a number of those roads that Lincoln and we'll work within them, and so we'll look at that. But and obviously conditions a big one too. So yeah.
And then another thought too is, when does a mid-60s asbestos concrete water main not typically look at its renewal cycle?
It actually depends on your smaller pipes are lasting a lot less than the larger pipes. So the 150s they're probably getting towards they need replacing. A 300 mil could still have another 20 years left in it. That's just how they're lasting. But the smaller pipe, which there's a lot of, is requiring replacing.
Look, certainly an area where I live, there's been a number of joint breaking.
Right.
So I'd imagine that would raise it on your list of.
It should do. So we have a system where it gets updated, and that should be flagged up for renewal. And there's been through the year be a number of times where we've actually had to bring a project in that year and just get it done because it's all of a sudden breaking
much
every
complex.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on our list.
Yeah.
Well, it was on the list, but far down.
Yeah.
So
That's good. Good to hear that things do raise up when they need to.
yeah, the public definitely let us know.
Very good.
All right, thanks, Mark. Kelly?
Yes, just in terms of the structure of water, this council could form a CCO or could join with another council. Where are those thoughts going at present, and when would council have to decide by?
We will be, there will be a presentation at some point in the near future. The council about the options. And obviously the plan will be for consultation to occur, I assume, early next year. Obviously, trying to keep it separate from the annual plan. But yeah.
So it will come through this year or early next year to council?
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of work done on looking at options and finding, and it's the modelling of the finances to be able to present to council. But then there will be a report that will follow through. But I've got a feeling that'll be in November, I think, or November. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Huh?
Very good.
Right, I have a question, because you touched on intensification, and in Halswell, before there was intensification, so a lot of the land was identified under the original policy statement as earmarked for rezoning to residential. So a lot of land was rezoned from rural to residential. And so there was a huge strategic land purchasing during that time to address the flood issues in Halswell. And so now we have the stormwater basins dealing with infrastructure, addressing the intensification in Halswell. Now, my question is, with Hornby and Riccarton, with existing built areas, how are we addressing stormwater or the flood protection in terms of intensification?
Yes.
So, well, that's one of the reasons for that funding. And that's where, if we identify that there's an issue with intensification that will cause flooding, then that funding's there to look at options to take the opportunity to either purchase land for storage or
Have you still land left in Hornby and Riccarton to address for stormwater basins?
Well, that's not, we won't rule that out. So because then you get to the point where you've got two options, and there might be more. One is you either pick that stormwater up and you pipe it, pump it away, or you find land. At the end of the day, I mean, the simplest way to put it, what is the cheapest option?
Yeah.
So the funding's there to give us the flexibility to make this decision if an opportunity does come up, that is a good deal. It allows us to take that opportunity. So in the urban areas, it is challenging. There are options. For example, if it got to the point where our options were extremely limited, and there's a large development wanting to occur, it could be put onto that developer to have to store on site, and therefore they may, the downside of that is they won't be able to put as many units on that site. But obviously, we can't get the situation where development's causing a problem that wasn't there before.
That's where Wigram Skies was pretty well done with all the retention basins around it.
Right. Sarah?
Yeah, and so just following on from that, so like in Riccarton, for example, how long's a piece of string? Would it have to be at least a decent size block to have it?
In terms of sort.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. So it'll be based on we do a lot of modelling in terms of what will happen if there's intensification in an area.
Yeah.
And they will dictate. I mean, you'll find there'll be areas around many areas that there's plenty of capacity. It all comes down to a number of factors of where it is in relation to a main network or a stream, etc. So it's not a simple you can't.
I think we can also like pipe it through like with the development before with Aidenfield, and then so that was the strategic land purchase across the road along Halswell or across Halswell Road, then the floodwaters would have been piped through to that basin.
Yes, and that,
So
yes.
it's not exactly where the development is going to be that you have the
Yeah,
the
I mean,
basin.
yeah, and part of the challenge, particularly like Change 14 is where's development going to occur?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge. So, particularly when you think about trying to do things strategically, is are you doing the right place strategically? Because it could occur over here. So, yeah.
If I could ask a question on Riccarton in particular, but it applies to Hornby too. So if you have a development intensification, a four-storied one, and a number of them, and you can't take the stormwater, you can't take the water away, the wastewater properly, you'd have to say no, wouldn't you?
Well, in a situation, there are places in the city that there's no wastewater capacity.
Yes.
Not many, but there is, yeah.
Actually.
So therefore, you wouldn't be able to allow, you should not allow someone connected to the system if it meant you're going to have a wastewater overflow. But we obviously work to avoid those situations.
Yes,
So,
I know.
but yeah, and that's why, yeah, for example, we got that funding there to try and stay ahead of it. So, because obviously the last thing any council wants to do is to say no to development. Yeah, so we'll.
Okay.
But I
That's
think,
fine.
Helen, under the PC 14, there
Yes.
were already areas identified where they
Identified, I
can not develop because they don't have the infrastructure capacity.
I think you won't be able to do it in Riccarton, but that's just my perception at present anyway. Yes. And I have, yeah, hopefully people will say no if you can't do it, but if you can't take away the waters. Anyway, that's isn't your issue today, so.
We've, yep, ran out of time, and
Thank you, Gib.
thank you very much,
Thank you.
Kevin.
Thanks very much.
Right.
If there's any questions you think of after.
Yeah,
send through.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Oh. And so next we have Anne
In Barry.
Tomlinson and Kelly.
Barry.
Oh,
Oh, no,
Barry.
but Kelly's sick.
Oh, okay. Right.
Victim Barry.
The Riccarton
Barry
map
back.
update.
Hello, welcome back, Barry.
And you know everybody?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Right.
Cool. That's actually the thing. So thanks for having me. So the last update we did was via a memo back in June. So we've done quite a bit of work since then. So we'll share some of projects that we've finished and sort of the remaining projects where we're at with those. And so we'll probably be seeking a little bit of guidance on some of those remaining projects. So, oh, is it the right hand arrow?
2 seconds.
Oh.
Yeah, freeze, I think will be sweet.
Really? Cool. Thanks, hey. I won't spend too much time on this because I think every time I come, I talk about what CRAF is. So that is CRAF. So some money we were given from the government.
Just ask Yanni.
Just as the only. So just a quick refresh on the projects that make up the Riccarton CRAF package of work. So we have some pedestrian improvements, which we've been progressing with Dean's Avenue pedestrian safety, Brockworth Place street renewal, a package of projects that look at cycle footpath and traffic calming improvements, Bradshaw Terrace street renewal, Waimairi Road pedestrian improvements, and some tactile pavers. So these are our completed projects. First up was our package of tactile pavers. So we were able to get a really good amount of tactile pavers in from the budget that the community put aside for this particular project. We've basically now got every intersection on Riccarton Road with tactile pavers on them, which was really cool. And we've also managed to get quite a few tactile pavers in around the university area as well.
Excellent.
Bradshaw Terrace, Helen? We're done. We're done. Yeah. So Bradshaw Terrace actually looks amazing. Yeah,
Now
look,
retire.
yeah. So,
C14's not finished.
yeah.
10 years.
So the construction actually went really, really smoothly. It was sort of delivered within the time frame. We had to close the street due to the works that we were doing, and we had parking set up on, I think it was one of the streets around the corner for the residents. The residents were fantastic. They worked really closely with our contractors, and the whole project just went really well. We've had some good feedback. When I was out taking these photos. I'm not the best photographer. I met a resident on the street. We had quite a good chat, but you know, they were just really thrilled with how the street's looking. It just gives it a whole new feel. And there's, I think, probably a bit of more of a sense of pride in the street now and having the new street trees and things. The gentleman that owns the white fence, and he's got the big area of landscaping outside, he actually works for a landscape design company that do very beautiful gardens in Fieldleton, and he's been watching very closely what we've been doing, and again, really thrilled with the outcome and how the street's looking. So that's been a real success. Waimari Road, we're nearly finished with Waimari Road. So we've just installed as part, and we've packaged it up with the church corner improvements, and so we've got the raised signalised crossing that has gone in just by the Bush Inn Centre. The signals are due to be commissioned next week. This was all constructed under night works, and again, it's just been a project that's gone really smoothly. We've had no issues. A bit of a niggle at the beginning with the noise for the residents, but Fulton Hogan were amazing in setting up some wall things that protected the noise for them, and gave them earplugs, and we managed really good the construction from there. And we've just relocated the bus stop. The third slide has been relocated just further north along the other side of the driveway going into the Bush Inn Centre. And just as part of this project, we also just upgraded the crossing on Leslie Street and just renewed the refuge. It was really broken and not in very good condition, upgraded the tactile pavers and put some new staple bar things in.
I think that's really good to have that there, and we need to train the pedestrians to cross properly. I was in Waimari and turned into the Bush Inn, and there was this elderly man with a walker trying to cross the road just before.
I know, yeah, because when I took the photos, there was people that just sort of come out and just wander on across. But I'm hoping once the signals are up and running, hopefully that will sort of
put some fences down.
Yeah. And
I was thinking you put the fence there so they don't.
Yeah, so again, another project that's just gone really smoothly. We've had no major issues. Wee bit of extra stormwater we had to do, but other than that, it's just gone again really well.
Good.
So the next three projects, which are the last sort of 3 pieces of work that we've got left to complete Riccarton Crest. So this is where we need a bit of guidance from the board moving forward, just on budget allocation and some priority on sort of where your priorities are sitting so that we can sort of progress. So first up is our package of the cycle, footpath and traffic calming improvements. So in conjunction, we worked really closely with our designer and with Andrew Hensley, sort of the area engineer, out of the list of projects, what we saw as sort of the best value for money, I guess, and where we could sort of make some improvements for high pedestrian volume areas. Or where there was an issue with speed. So our first one we've got is just some safety improvements on Motorvale at Kilmarnock Street, and that is where we're going to be installing pedestrian refuge island, some tactile pavers, and just tidying up that corner. You've got the railway line at the bottom of your screen, bottom of this plan, and just making it a bit more direct for the pedestrians.
I wanted to just ask you, I thought when the High Girls came in, they asked for the crossing at Darville Street.
Yeah, we're getting coming to that. Yep, that's coming up.
Is that a raised platform?
That's just a speed hump. That's just flush. Yeah. So the benefits of this, it's a really busy intersection. It's really close to Girls High, and it's also close to Mona Vale, where visitors. So there's a lot of pedestrian traffic through here. It would also help with slowing vehicles down as they're coming out of Mona Vale and onto Kilmarnock Street. Actually, when we went out on the site visit, a lady just came up Mona Vale and just drove straight out onto Kilmarnock Street and didn't even stop. Depending on where we go with this, we're looking at doing just some targeted engagement with the directly affected residents before Christmas, and looking to bring these last sort of projects back to the board.
Can I just ask what that red shade is at the corner? Is that a block of concrete?
It would be, it's a build out. It's,
I mean, the bottom left.
yeah,
Well,
the orange ones, it's.
Yeah, they're build outs, yeah,
it'll be a
they're
build-out.
really sharpen the curve so people take the corners more slowly.
So concrete.
Does it look like what's outside Woolworths Church Corner?
Probably
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
concrete.
Concrete islands.
It's
Yeah.
just basically meant to sort of sharpen the corners so people take the corners more slowly.
Yeah.
That's the general
Right.
idea. And to reduce the crossing width,
Does that take out another parking or no?
No.
not on that side.
Not on that side, no. And it just keeps, because at the moment that corner is quite messy. It's very big, very wide, and there's sort of no real clear direction for pedestrians. Second one that was on the list, that was from the list is Harakiki Street. So you've got Island Stream there in the middle, and that was it's quite a long straight road. So it's sort of where it gives opportunities for people to speed as they're approaching the one-lane bridge. So the bridge crossing Island Street is actually one way. So you've got to give way, but cars coming the other way, and it's next to Boys High, so it is slowing down traffic. The Boys High boarding school is just up on the right. For this one, it will require a decision from 2 community boards, because Island Stream is the boundary between you guys and Pendleton Waimari Ewood Community Board. Again, if you choose to pursue this one, it'll be engagement before Christmas decision in the new year. And the third one is Darvell Street. So this is one of the Darvell Street projects that you mentioned, Helen. So this is putting a speed hump on Darvell Street at Kilmarnock Street, and just putting in some tactile pavers again to slow traffic movements coming in and out of Darvell Street onto Kilmarnock Street. So what we sort of need from the board at this stage, so we've done some high level estimates, because we have a set amount of money. We need to sort of ensure that we do the projects within the budget. So we just need to, just from the board, out of those 3 projects, sort of, if you would sort of rank them 1, 2, 3, sort of what your priorities would be. And what we can do is we're going to then can go away and we're going to do some more tight cost estimates, and we can come back with a dollar figure that possibly we may need some money from the program just to top it up in order to construct all 3. At the moment, the initial cost is looking like we could do Mona Vale on its own, or we could do the other 2, but we're just doing it. So when that sort of came through, we're doing a bit of value engineering. We've reduced the scope a little bit on Mona Vale to try and get the budget down far enough that we can put all 3 in, with possibly a little bit of a top up from the program.
Do you
So-
need an answer right today for?
Ideally, but if you would prefer,
Tyler.
Because
I'm
Tyler's
quite
not.
yeah.
I'm quite happy to actually, I probably know the area better than Tyler does.
But Tyler still need to have a
Yes,
say.
but I do think that the high girls came in and asked for Darvell Street. So we'd definitely have to do that, I think.
Would they ask me for pedestrian?
They would ask in Kilmarnock Street.
Kilmarnock?
Yeah.
Yeah, at Darvell Street, yeah.
I would go with Mona Vale, so you kind of have a precinct. The other one, Harakiki Street, is slightly further down,
It is.
and it's merged in more with Pendleton, and it was a long-term project years ago.
Yeah.
So that's probably the one I would leave,
Yeah.
if you're going to
And I-
have to drop
1,
one.
2, 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was sort of pretty much where we were sitting.
Yes,
as well.
Girls High, and you've got Girls High, and both
Yeah.
accesses to Girls High have constraints.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes it a precinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can confirm that back to you via memo,
Yeah.
because we sort of want to keep moving with these. It's really
Yeah.
more targeted engagement,
Yes.
like to get decisions, a decision in February.
Darvell, Mona Vale?
Correct. So they're only 1 block away from each other. So you're actually
You'd leave the Harakiki.
Harakiki, which is quite a way.
And that was an issue years ago.
Yeah.
And it's probably fed through now.
Yeah.
But it's less critical, I think.
Than the other 2, because these ones do, yeah, like you said, Helen,
And
I
they're
mean, girls.
busier too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be great if you come back to us in a memo.
It would
and
be,
remember.
yeah. Perfect. So got those 3. I just get on my notes here, make sure I don't miss anything. Right, Brockworth Place. So
This is the problem.
yeah, so Barry's here to help me a little bit with Brockworth Place around the technical side of things, but just briefly, Brockworth Place is on the list due to the condition of the street was a driver for this project to be one of your CREF projects, and it is an upgrade of the asset with new curb and channel. Probably a couple of the main things that have driven a lot of the costs that were done for these projects were done like 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, and since then construction costs have skyrocketed. So a lot of these projects, and Bradshaw Terrace was the same, we needed to take money out of the program in order to be able to do Bradshaw Terrace. So we're in a similar situation with Brockworth Place. Quite a bit of drainage work to do in Brockworth Place, which has driven up the cost, and also we've got a bit of coal tar, our friend coal tar, that we will.
Not a bit.
We've got a lot of coal tar in there that needs removal. So that's just even those two things alone has driven up the cost. So that's where we're sitting with Brockworth. And then we'll talk about figures at the end. So just sort of talking about where we're sitting with each project. I don't know if you've got any questions around the project itself that Barry can answer while
Can I just check, have you spoken to residents about this?
No, we haven't gone out to consultation because we come and see you.
And the other issue is you're only doing half of Brockworth, is that right?
We're doing the south end.
South end.
Yeah. So
There's a
Dean's.
huge beast up there.
Yeah.
Oh, there is.
Years ago, yes.
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay, that's fine.
So there's a stop sign. What is that relocated position? What's being relocated? At the near intersection with Dean's Ave. There's an arrow relocated position. At the bottom.
Our light pole.
Light pole.
Yeah, we need to, that's come out of the lighting assessment that we need to relocate the light pole closer to the intersection.
Yes, relocated LP. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So that's the joy that is Brockworth Place. And our last project is the Dean's Ave pedestrian safety project. So these are three of the options that were considered. So we've talked signals. So we looked at a staggered raised crossing with the mid-block refuge with signals, and we looked at a staggered crossing, not raised, but with signals. And we also looked at a staggered zebra crossing with a mid-block refuge without signals. So those were all the considerations that were looked at. So there's been a lot of work done on this, a lot of investigation work, and it's we've come to, and a lot of this is also money, that the budget for this project. So the staff recommendation at this stage, based on all our investigation work and still providing a safe pedestrian crossing facility through what's it called? I did write it down, our network guidance, which is through the NZTA, Pedestrian Crossing Selection Guide, and Barry knows that one off by heart.
Yeah.
So we are still providing under that crossing guidance a safe and system, and it's a safe level of service for pedestrians. So what we're proposing is reducing the lane on the east side of Dean's Ave. So currently you've got 2 lanes all to quite a way down towards Mayfair Street. We're looking at bringing that merge right back to just before Oakford Close, so that by the time you get to where the mosque is and where the proposed facility is going, is that it's only a single crossing on the west side and you're only crossing 1 lane on the east side. Also, that will support, currently you've got the 2 lanes and then you've got cars parked along Hagley Park. It's really, really tight. So it means that it will become a lot safer for parked cars, as well as providing a crossing facility that's just a single lane.
You're going for the option without traffic signals?
This is what I'm here to talk to.
Yeah.
This is what
I'm not so keen on that.
I will get to the last slide, and that will have all the dollar figures.
Got a second option.
Yep.
Wouldn't mind pointing out how much of the lane, when it reduces from 2 to 1 on the diagram?
Pointer. Yep. As a pointer, or as a just.
What is this?
Thank you.
So currently that's where the 2 lanes end here, and the merge will also Oakford Close, and this is the mosque here. That's basically the first little street. This is heading south towards Benham Road.
Okay, so it's on the bottom.
It'll be here. And so by the time you get to here, you've got single lane of traffic. So you're only crossing single lane and single lane.
And what is it now?
It's doubled. It's 2 lanes, quite a way down to about here, just before Brockworth Place.
Right.
So we're proposing to bring that taper right back to
The beginning of.
just before Oakford.
And so how far back is the roundabout?
the roundabouts.
Further,
Oh, here I am walking, that's not gonna make much difference. So you've got Riccarton, Riccarton Road.
You mean the signals at Riccarton Road?
Signals are in road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the nearest intersection.
and it flows really well, the traffic at
Sorry,
present.
you
If you
are
do
on the
this, it will
roundabout.
start to
Yeah.
hinder it, I
coming
think.
into that intersection, it's 2 lanes.
So, and it's 2 lanes and then 1 lane, and then is it gonna be 2 lanes again?
You're right at the very
Oh,
bottom.
no, it just goes 1 lane all the way down.
All the way to
But
Blenheim Road?
So at the moment,
It's two have been up.
yeah, currently it merges, it gets to 1 lane here.
Oh,
So
yeah.
You've got 2 lanes and it becomes 1 lane here. We're proposing that it will become 1 lane back here.
True.
And then you've got Riccarton Road.
What's the impact of that going to be on that traffic?
So, yeah, so we've
One
asked,
here.
yeah. Brad said I'll ask this question. So our so I talked to our real-time operations people. They said currently what happens for traffic heading south, it gets to Riccarton Road, Riccarton Ave, and it either turns right at Riccarton Ave, turns left into Riccarton Ave, right into Riccarton Road. So the traffic that's really busy to there, the cars that go through are not, the numbers do drop off at this intersection.
Yes.
They haven't, now I did bring the email up on my phone just so I can relay that to you. But
It is very tight as well, isn't it?
it is quite not for black cars.
Yeah.
Gives us a church corner feeling, I think,
Yeah.
this one. Are we able to flick on
Yeah.
to the other option?
Well, no, we don't have another option.
Oh,
but
I-
yeah.
I thought-
I'll just read about what
Yeah.
what
Okay.
the movement. So they're saying they haven't seen any hold-ups either in the AM peak or the PM peak along here. And they had a look over the last few days in September before the school holidays, and it hasn't come up on their Bluetooth tracking congestion radar either. So he doesn't think there's any issues at the moment. So then the right lane is usually busier than the left, as quite a few turn off into Riccarton Ave. So when I spoke to people in our traffic operations team, they didn't seem to think it would cause too much of an issue. I mean, it will be more congested than what it is now, but like everything, once you make the change, then people get used to it. But it certainly will provide a much safer environment for people parking next to Hagley Park, for those pedestrians only having to cross 1 lane to get, in terms of their traffic movements, only a 1 lane of traffic, and the crossing distance is a lot shorter by installing the build outs on both sides.
Are you not able to give us another option? Because I thought we were going with a.
Yeah, I'll get into that.
Well,
but yes,
I mean,
I don't know,
fair to
I
say-
say here, because this is really important. We've met with Gamal on site. You were going to come back with a signalised option and possibly this one.
Mhm.
So we need 2 options. We don't want to get into a church corner situation.
And that's what I'm here to talk to you
Yeah.
about. But I've got my next, yeah.
Okay.
But I can comment though, in terms of the physical appearance of all the curbs, the build outs and the change to the central island, that will be the same for a traffic signal solution.
yeah.
The only difference would be obviously the insertion of.
Why wouldn't you just
signal
have a simple thing like on Waimari Road,
Yeah.
which works well for students?
Yeah.
And they just press a button if they want to cross, but if there's if there's no one there, the traffic just flows.
Yeah. So what this design can do, so it's going to be, we're going to be putting in ducting for signals, and it can be retrofitted with signals in the future. So when I get onto the next slide, that'll wrap it all up. So it'll explain. So at the moment we're recommending this. So again, we're here for your guidance tonight on what you want us to
Well,
do. So
I recommend a second
But
option.
Helen,
let's
finish first.
No, but look, I thought we weren't going down this path, so let's have 2 options for the board eventually. Because we can't go down this path again with,
So we have produced the design with signals, but there is a cost implication with signals, which is why we haven't made it. We're recommending this option because of the cost and what.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is
I'm
what I'm.
happy to have the costs out there, so people.
Yep, so we're getting to that slide.
Yeah.
That slide, yeah. So
I
now it's got to go.
can't.
So we've had this scheme safety audited, and it is a safe design, and it still provides a higher level of service than what is currently there at the moment. We've had pedestrian counts done and vehicle volume and speed counts done as well. So we've done a lot of investigations in this area. And it does support, the pedestrian numbers do support a crossing facility going in at this location, not just for the users. It's very busy there on a Friday, but also during sports events and things like that. So it is a really busy location. We met with Dean's Ave Precinct Society and walked through the area, and they also support a crossing at this location. However, they are concerned about having signals at this location, so they don't really support signals going in here. So there will be mixed views, so like people go out for consultation. Just to let you know, when we get into the figures, to install signals at this location would add another $500,000 to the project. So, and this is again discussion for tonight, where we're seeking your guidance on what you would like us to do. If you would prefer to speak to the other elected members about it, we're happy to do that. So the final slide, so I just get through my papers. Has anyone got any questions about the scheme itself?
Yeah, it just seems you're intruding into Dean's Avenue, which
Question, Helen.
Well, no,
Question.
I mean, what is the avenue? Is this a minor arterial route, or is it the same at Church Corner? It just seems that when I thought we'd kind of got it sorted, now that was just a verbal understanding. And it was about a couple of years ago, and I think you said you'd look at traffic signals.
That's right.
But I think we should have. I'm surprised it's 500,000. I think the Church Corner they were working out another 150,000. So is that right? Have I got?
Traffic signals cost a lot more than 150,000.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of other costs. When I say 500,000, this is quite a different road to Church Corner and traffic management and. I mean, that's just a ballpark figure. And so that's just to, when we get to the last slide, it will wrap it all up, sort of.
Well,
what we're
I think
asking.
we definitely need both options coming back to the board.
Hang on, Helen.
Yes.
We got Sarah's got a question again.
Yeah.
So the lanes on the other side, there's no change to the?
No.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
No.
okay.
It's already, and just on each approach, there is a speed hump just to slow the traffic through here. So that will help make it safer as well. So the traffic speed will be slow when it comes through.
So
with
75?
75 mil. Yeah.
That's the height, yeah.
So what's that look like? Is that a
They've got
like a cushion or a?
road.
That's
Yeah.
a standard speed bump.
Yeah,
Speed bump.
it's not the sort of, it's
not a
more of it's more smoother, but it's enough to slow the traffic as it's going through where the pedestrian crossings. And also just where the refuge is itself, it will be fenced. So similar to Beeley Ave, I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, it's got like the pole fencing through the stagger. So it also, again, it just provides that extra protection.
Brum Street's got the same.
Yeah, Brum Street, that's right.
Oh, through the middle.
Yeah, through that middle bit.
Central line.
Just some
So you just put-
clarification on the scheme design. So you mentioned earlier it's 2 lanes and then 1 that's all the way to Blenheim Road. On the way back, is it?
It's just one lane.
Single lane at the moment.
Single the whole way.
Okay.
Whole way. Yeah, so that doesn't change. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the scheme shows an enlargement of the central median, because at the moment it's very skinny.
Yep.
So you would have a much wider
Becomes a pedestrian refuge.
waiting area in the middle, but that wouldn't have effect on the traffic lanes.
No.
But we can achieve that without disturbing the traffic capacity.
Hank,
So just one speed hump? Is it?
On
is
each
it-
approach.
On it,
Each
just
approach.
on the approach to
Correct,
the crossing.
correct.
Sarah,
And so the advantage by having the one lane from Oak
It's closer.
will allow more room for parking.
Yes. Allow the
Yeah.
parking to be-
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
parking bay, which is currently even people are putting their wheels up on the curb because it's so narrow through there.
Yeah.
So that would be widened a bit, so it provides a safe parking space for a really heavily parked up area and then a traffic lane. So at the moment, you've got the traffic lane closest to the park and you've got someone trying to get in their car. It's very tight through there. So
Yeah.
it just provides a lot safer for people who are parking
That's
along there
good.
as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So to wrap up, so this is where we're sitting in terms of funds. So the current available funds left in the program is 1.9 million. Additional funds currently required for Brockworth Place is 1.2 million. And the additional funds required for Dean's Ave is the non-signalised option, which is the option we just showed you, is an additional 130,000. These are really high level costs, scheme level costs. And if we signalise that, it's another 500,000 on top of that. So you're looking at another 630,000. Like I said, this is really high level. So, we are going to look at value engineering. We're working really closely with the contractor through an ECI process. So they may have a methodology that may reduce those costs, but really this is where we're sitting at this stage. So we've got to the situation where we need some guidance from the community board on how you want us to progress with those projects.
So when you say additional funds required, that's on top of the 1.9?
No, so sorry, I should have been a bit clearer. So currently the budget we've got for the three pedestrian projects we're fine. And the budget we've got for Brockworth Place is 800,000. And that the high level estimate for that is sitting at about 2 million. And that was with Coulter, the drainage works and just construction costs gone up since we allocated 800,000. Again, that may well come down once we've met with the contractor through ECI around methodology costs. Dean's Ave, the budget for that is 800,000 as well, 600,000. 600,000 we've got for the when I say Dean's Ave, so we've got 600,000 for the pedestrian safety project. So if we do Dean's Ave, that takes all your budget. There are some projects that are sitting that I understand through Christchurch Girls High School have been regarding some pedestrian concerns on Kilmarnock Street and Riccarton Road, and I understand Medbury School have got some concerns. And there's also a project on our list that have come through from CRAF in terms of Medbury School for Crake Road. So those projects are sitting there. So it's really, and I can leave this with you, but we're sort of wanting to keep moving. So this is where we've got to and why we've come back to the board, because we just need some guidance from you on the remaining funds and some direction on how we proceed, because it's a decision for the community.
On Brockworth Place.
Yes.
I'm a bit surprised we're going down this path. I've heard from residents they aren't, one or two that is, that they're not overly comfortable with just doing part of the road. Are you aware of why we're doing Brockworth Place?
That was a project that was put through from the community board when they did the original CRAF consultation 3 years ago. So it was one that the community board.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could put that out as a feeder too. I mean, if we didn't do Brockworth Place, unless we have to do it for some reason.
It was a project that the community board put forward.
It's already put forth.
Yeah.
You asked for it.
I can't remember asking for it particularly.
Last term.
Where the Dean's Avenue did. Okay, I'm just very concerned that the Waimari Road, have you been out and looked at what happened on Waimari Road with the students and a crossing there? That's further down to Dovedale. It seemed quite a simple thing. You built it out a bit and you had traffic signals and it's worked really well. And it just seems that you don't want to stop traffic all the time, but you just want to do it.
It would be a signalised crossing. It's not.
Yes. It's not quite as built out as this, though.
No,
it's just a little.
It's quite a different location.
Environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think.
It's really for you guys how you would like to
spend
your money, and so the reason, and like I said, with Dean's Ave, for example, we would if we built what we're recommending, we would put in the ducting and would have it so that in the future, if funds became available, that signals could go in there. Yeah, so.
Well, I'd like you to check the 500,000, would you, as a question?
What way?
We've done
Dean's Avenue. I'm surprised.
The signal.
The actual signals, if it's as high as
that's a rough figure.
Is it cheaper?
Yeah.
Okay. 500,000 is cheap.
Yes.
Particularly this is a staggered crossing too. It's not just a single crossing, so it's got twice as many signals because it's in two stages, if you will.
Well, could you have a look at Waimari Road, because it seems to have worked really well, and it's
quite a different location. Yeah, and you've got a median island.
Environment, Helen.
No, it's not. It's the same busy environment. I mean, this is as busy as Waimari Road.
I think it would be not a good idea to run with the signalised, given the cost of it at the stage.
There's a signalised crossing down at the cycleway.
Correct. Yeah, and at Riccarton Road.
So soon pedestrians would be a little bit of a lot.
It'd be tricky if they're both manually operated.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's your next step?
So our next steps are, so based on whatever direction you guys would like to go in, we'll just keep going. So I've heard the feedback on the three at the beginning. That was quite simple. Because we will also need to come back to you with a formal report around this funding, just for that you approve the funding. This is just to get some guidance so we can keep going. So we've got to a situation where we do need additional funding for these last two projects.
For the
Um,
last two.
For Brockworth and for the pedestrian safety project. So
I thought so it's part of CREF funding. We have to ask for it.
no, it's all sitting there. It's all CREF funded. It's all yours.
CREF. So we could substitute a signalised crossing for Brockworth Place, or have we got a reason for doing Brockworth Place?
You
But,
asked for it.
The community board asked Brockworth, there's quite a bit of money being spent on Brockworth Place already in terms of team design.
We have to do it then. We have to do.
No, listen, we're the board.
Yeah, it's another virtual.
yeah.
Yeah, it was the board who put it.
Yeah, I know people have had doubts about, I know residents have had doubts. I mean, I haven't heard lots about it, but there's a kind of doubt of just doing part of it.
I think also with Brockworth Place, the request also came through the craft consultation from the residents in Brockworth Place.
Certainly, certainly wasn't
And
anything
my-
I pushed.
Yeah, and my understanding was that there was not enough money to do the whole of Brockworth Place, so the community
That's right.
board decided to start and do
That's right.
South End first.
I certainly haven't pushed it.
Yeah, so that's where the direction has come from.
Well, look,
Quite a bit of money's been spent.
I think you should do two options. One, as staff are recommending, and one where you don't do as much in terms of the cutting into the road. You go more with a program like Church Corner, where they've got a pedestrian crossing there, a new pedestrian crossing, or at least have something. So, I mean, I think we need to talk with in fact Gamal as well, because he's the one who,
Once you touch Colt,
he's the one who started this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Correct. We've tried to connect with Gamal. It hasn't been overly successful, so we've just had to keep going. Otherwise,
Yeah, I mean,
we've got a time frame to deliver this as well.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy to try and speak to him over the weekend, but so Brockworth Place is a cutout as well, isn't it? You're going to come into the road a bit?
Yeah, so cutting about 400 to 500 millimeters.
Yes.
The actual cross section of the road, it's extremely convex, I suppose. And so the actual profile of the road is being reshaped as well because it's drains in a
Okay, so
strange
it's much the same for people.
And the drainage, individual properties have their own sumps, right, which is a really inefficient way of draining. So part of the expense is to replace it with this under channel piping on the side of the road. It's quite an expensive way, but it solves some pretty bad drainage issues because I understand the residents have had regular flooding problems on there.
And ponding, there's a lot of ponding.
Addressing that.
It's a really damp street, even when you go down there, it just feels damp. Yeah, so, and like Barry said, in the old, our friend, the Coulter. So, I mean, when you do these investigations, and I just, like to reiterate that, a lot of these costs were done 3 to 4 years ago, and a lot of costs have risen significantly in construction over those. So that's why each project we've done, and it was the same with Bradshaw Terrace, that the costs are just so much higher than what was proposed.
So could you bring back what you're proposing? So you've got 1900, yeah.
So that's what you've got available in the program.
In the program.
1.9 million.
And we could actually say we're not particularly concerned about Brockworth Place. We could. I'm just saying it's an option, isn't it?
I mean, just on Brockworth Place,
have to go back and consult.
Quite a bit of work done on that, so there has been quite a bit of money spent to date. But that's,
Yes, I mean, I think if you have another option, you bring to Dean's Avenue, you have two options, and then we can debate it at back the board.
The 3 previous that we gave you that ranking on, they are not included in 1.9, are they?
No, they're separate. So, but we may need to, if we did all 3, we may need to take a little bit, just a small amount from that, but probably nothing significant. Once we get some more streamlined costs, but currently it's looking, we can definitely do 2. But yeah, if we did the 3rd, and we just don't know what that looks like.
And is there any craft in the Fielderton Waimari?
So
Because one of them was
this,
Waimari.
yeah, so this project, so the craft is actually Riccarton and Fendleton craft.
Yes.
Currently, all the projects we've done are in Riccarton.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I know. I was embarrassed at the time, but Fendleton.
They were happy.
Yes, I didn't say much.
So the direction you're asking from this board is to have those two. And then the Dean's Avenue, either non-signalized or signalized.
I guess-
Will go out for consultation.
Yeah, I think it's just some direction on how you want to spend your money. Yeah, so because it will be formalised by a report. So for us to keep the project moving tonight, it's just about some guidance on how, you know, do you want to spend? Do you want to go out the signalised option? I mean, I do. You might want to.
And if I'm the only Riccarton person,
Yeah.
I've got two people, but if we can go with two options, I'm fine with that, and the costs.
I think, because this is Riccarton based, we'll need to pull in the the other two Riccarton.
I've been trying to get hold of Gamal.
I mean,
I realise that, but he's pretty,
Gamal
he's pretty right up
has
at-
been sick, so
Yeah.
send his apologies.
and look, I'll
today.
speak to him over the weekend, but I think if you have both options there, it's up to the board at the end of the day.
Yeah, and we've just got to be confident that you're happy to spend that money.
Yes, yes.
So can I ask, Ian, would you be going out for consultation with the options? Or would you be going out with a preferred proposal?
Well, if the board are wanting us to put both options out to the community, we can do that.
Yes, I think that's the way to go.
How do we make a decision on what we do with that?
Well,
after
you'd
we
vote
vote.
for all three options, one to go out Rockwood Place and the other two, and two options for the mosque, and it
What if
goes
we
out.
don't reach a consensus on what we,
Well,
on
you
the
have a
steer
vote.
that we're giving?
You have a vote. It's like church corner.
It's one of these ones where I think when we hear from the other two Riccarton
Yes.
representatives, we might start to get some balance very quickly.
Yeah.
And so we need to talk to Tyler, we need to talk to Gamal.
We need to have them at the table.
Yes.
Yeah,
For that.
and I think the other thing is, if you're talking to them around the Dean's Ave project, that it will be retrofitted for signals in the future. There's that option, and it does mean that there will be other projects that won't happen if you go with signals.
So you're saying if it's not non-signalized, it will still be retrofitted
Yes.
for features.
Yeah.
And ducting will be put in, so that signals can be put in the future.
I mean, you might get a lot of, if you go to consultation, I'm happy to vote Rockworth Place through for consultation, but you might get a lot of resistance there.
I think with Brockworth Place, I think we're just going to be a wee bit careful. We're not going to be consulting really on Brockworth Place. We're going to be doing a really similar approach that we did for Bradshaw Terrace. It's a like for like street renewal, and there's really no ability for people to influence the design. So with Bradshaw Terrace, what we did, we said, we've got this money, we're going to be full street renewal. Is there anything we need to know? Like, for example, there was a new development at the end of the street that we found out about. And we'd be doing the same approach with Brockworth Place. There's no ability for the residents to influence.
Are you sure?
Straight for straight, like for like.
Are you sure of that?
Yes.
Because you've done so much work, is that the reason?
It's a like for like street renewal, and that was basically what the project is. It's the same as Bradshaw Terrace. It's just a like for like.
Perhaps if you could send through the sort of date that just find out when in fact we approved it. I'm fine if we've approved it. I'm sure we have.
The
but
previous board approved it.
The previous board.
You were there.
You were there.
Yeah, but I always thought we're going with a signalisation for Dean's Avenue.
Well, things have
I
changed-
think if
things
we
have
have
changed
both
since
and we go out for consultation on both.
It
that's
was, the board asked us to investigate signals.
Investigate.
Yeah, that's what the board asked us to do.
But of course, we are a board member, and so we are able to actually say we want both options tabled and both for consultation.
Both options.
Yeah.
You've got both options there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anne.
Okay.
So from here, you're just going to send a memo.
So I guess, do you want to speak to Tyler and Gamal around the Dean's Ave? If you want to go out with both options?
I'll certainly
I think
speak.
we'll have to, yeah.
I'll speak to Beck Gamal.
Yeah.
Because I was with you at the time.
Yep, absolutely. And you're just mindful that it means that some of the other projects that have been in front of the board won't be able to get done
By CREF funding.
by CREF funding.
So when do you need feedback by?
As soon as possible would be good. Yeah, ideally we'd like to get out to consultation before Christmas.
So when you say some of the other projects won't get done, is that the other ones we saw earlier?
No, but they're fine. So they're in the traffic calming budget.
Yep.
That's the budget for Dean's Ave is called pedestrian safety improvements, and sitting within that list of projects is the projects that the girls talked about. So we do have a project for Kilmarnock Street at both at Darvale Street and also on Riccarton Road at Darvale Street, which was the route from Christchurch
That's right,
High School
yeah.
all the way through to the bus stop on Wellington Road, they're getting across Kilmarnock Street, they're getting across Riccarton Road.
Yeah.
So that was on your list, so we
Yeah.
wouldn't, and also I understand Medbury School has pedestrian safety concerns for their students.
Yeah.
And another project that is on our list is for a refuge island for Medbury School on Crake Road.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if they could look at getting the non-signalised one plus a fair chunk
yeah,
of that.
and that just gives us some money
think
to look at those, and
that's-
that's a decision, like I said, that you guys, and in which case, if that's the direction the board want to go, we wouldn't consult on a signalised option, we wouldn't put a,
And
I don't,
when you consult with that crossing, non-signalised, have it that it can be upgraded to signal at a later date. should we
correct,
find
yeah,
it.
so it's been,
Particularly the
Yeah.
traffic management, because
Yeah.
we would put these ducts in. Yeah.
Are you able to go back to the traffic engineers and look at Waimari Road? Because that's been very successful. That's
Well,
not
it's
the one we've
different
just done.
environment.
it's a very different environment, and it's like, we've got a median island in the middle, and
Yes.
we've got to, take a lane out, so.
But it certainly hasn't interrupted flow too much.
I know the one you mean,
Yes.
that's on your list too,
Yes.
the raised platform, but
But
it's,
I think, we'll just leave it here for now. And,
perhaps I'll liaise with Bailey.
yeah, and, right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Lovely, thank
Have a
you.
great long weekend.
Yeah, will do, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Good to see you again. And you.
Right, so that wraps up our info session, and we